Well, good afternoon. This presentation is in response to week 3 reading chapters of chapters 2 through 4 in our textbook, Speak Up. In chapter 2, entitled Developing Your First Speech, it starts off by describing Martin Luther King's passion for preparing messages prior to delivering messages, as an example for all who may pursue public speaking. The key to remember from this section is preparation and perseverance are the keys to a successful speech. The next section asks the question, why prepare? In response, the authors explain 3 common problems that people have when preparing properly. An improper way is they don't leave enough time for planning and practice. Number 2, focusing on the length rather than the quality of the presentation. Number 3, failing to follow the assignment. The next section focuses on the classical approach to speech preparation by explaining the classic canons of rhetoric that Cicero stressed effective speakers utilize for effective speech presentation. The 5 canons he refers to are invention, arrangement, style, memory, and delivery. Moving on in the chapter, the authors address the subject of preparing and delivering your first speech. In this section, the authors give a guide of things that should be considered when preparing a speech. The authors also briefly address each of 15 different items and give references to other chapters in the book where the items are explained in more detail. The topics range from analyzing your audience, selecting a topic, creating a thesis statement, and many other topics which eventually lead up to delivering your speech. The next section of the chapter deals with overcoming speech anxiety, which a lot of us have. The focus is again on early preparation and steps to take to ensure success, such as getting a good night's sleep before your presentation, eating a light meal rather than a heavy meal or junk food. Also, lay off the caffeine. Caffeine tends to wind people up and give them the jitters. Also, another way to ensure that you have been prepared properly is to get a good night's sleep or be rested and relaxed prior to giving your presentation. The steps presented in this chapter are helpful, and if followed correctly, will give you the self-confidence of knowing that you have prepared well and that your speech will be successful. Chapter 3 is on speech ethics. This chapter deals with the tough subjects of ethics. In today's society, we see a lot of notable people, including politicians, that profess to be fine, honest, and upstanding people. And the next thing you know, they're caught up in a lie, a scandal, adulterous affair, or embezzling millions of dollars. The authors emphasize the importance of choosing right over wrong in preparing and presenting your speech. They also acknowledge that there are different degrees of ethics. For some people, they choose absolute. Some it's situational, and others are culturally relative. The main focus the authors are trying to instill in the reader is to communicate truthfully at all times. Getting caught in a lie is the beginning of a loss of respect by the people you are addressing. This follows through to being honest in regards to citing your sources when referencing a fact or example being presented in your presentation. Giving credit to others for their work is not only honest, it's the right thing to do. This section also touches on using sound reasoning when presenting information in a speech. Fallacious reasoning has no place in an honest presentation. The end of the chapter addresses the responsibility of the listener and the need for them to be ethical in their behavior. The ethical listener can show this by showing courtesy when listening to a presentation, demonstrating an open mind during a presentation, and lastly, by respectfully holding the speaker accountable for the content of their presentation. In Chapter 4, it addresses listening skills. The chapter addresses the importance of being a good listener and having good listening skills, both as a speaker and a member of the audience. The authors distinguish the difference between listening and hearing. Although hearing is a passive physical activity, listening requires much more attention. In regards to listening, the authors chose to focus mainly on processing and retaining what is being heard. Examples are given as to how to identify 4 common listening styles. There are action-oriented, content-oriented, people-oriented, and time-oriented. There are also examples of poor listening habits as well, such as unprocessed note-taking, non-listening, and interruptive listening. The authors explain a few ways to become a better listener by filtering out distractions and focusing on the speaker, and show that you are listening. Speaking in public isn't as easy as some people make it seem to be, and the chapter winds up by explaining things to watch out for when you are giving a presentation. Some of the things to watch out for are nonverbal communication from the audience. Some people are fidgety or not paying attention, looking at their phone a lot. These are all things to take into consideration and also to absorb while you're giving your presentation. If you find your audience wandering off and looking and doodling on paper rather than engaging, then you may have lost them. So it's a good idea to keep your audience engaged at all times. God bless, and I hope to hear from you soon. Hope you're having a great day.